is going on, everybody? Sports Scuba Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Hope everyone's having a great start to their Monday, the start of a new week. A lot to get into on this week's edition, as always, of the Sports Scoop. Thanks for tuning in again. Definitely going to talk about what happened on Sunday morning with Team USA. Men's hockey getting the gold medal, 2-1 overtime victory over Canada. Going to talk about that a lot. Going to talk a little bit about the Pirates. They played their first few spring training games of 2026, and there's a lot of optimism right now, folks. There's Bucco fever everywhere right now in Pittsburgh and really nationally. And so we're going to touch on some players who have done well so far and some expectations, as always. Also going to get into a lot of NBA right now because this is kind of a dead period, you'd say, in terms of sports. I mean, the Olympics just happened. That was a lot of fun to watch, a lot of neat sports, honestly. I haven't been like the biggest Olympics guy, but I was watching some new sports and everything, and some of them were actually pretty entertaining to watch. So, but no football right now. There's a little bit of college basketball. Maybe I'll touch on some of that. What's been going on in college basketball? I got to touch on Michigan versus Duke, actually, and Arizona-Houston from this weekend. So I will touch on some college basketball at the end, but I want to talk NBA a good amount today. Because it's, post-trade deadline, post-All-Star break. We're getting into it now, and there's some movement in the standings, contention. The Contenders group is starting to take shape and take form. And I want to talk about some teams I think can contend for the title and teams that I think are absolute pretenders. And there are certainly some of both. So a lot to talk about. Again, thank you for tuning in. It's very much appreciated. And I just want to get right into it with Team USA winning against Canada in the women's gold medal game and the men's gold medal game. That was shocking to me. I thought the women would win the gold, and I thought the men would lose to Canada. I mean, Canada is a stacked roster on the men's side. I mean, McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. I mean, these are the absolute, obviously Crosby, but he was hurt, and he seems to be on the up here, which is a good sign for Penguins fans, certainly. But just star-studded team, and Tom Wilson was playing well. I mean, they just got a bunch of Brad Marchand, he's ageless. I mean, they just got so many great players on that Canadian team. And for Team USA it was a grind. I will be the first to admit I did not watch the whole game. I woke up a little later than 8:15 or 8:30 whenever it started, but I caught about half the game. And it was a real grind for Team USA. I mean, Canada was making a lot of things happen. They really were. And they got a ton of great chances. But Connor Hellebuck, I mean, he's been praised a ton in the past 24 hours, and rightfully so, absolutely. He was tremendous. He was the reason Team USA was still in that game, and it not being 3-1 or 4-1 Canada, and the game getting out of hand. I mean, he was just tremendous the whole game. Some unbelievable saves. You saw the one with the stick save that Team Canada, they almost had a goal there, and he saved it with the stick in the crease before it could get over the line for a goal. I mean, he just made big save after big save, and I think a lot of it, too, was Canada had some opportunities, some really good opportunities, and they just missed them. I mean, McKinnon had a wide-open net late in that game, and he missed it, and then he wanted to talk after the game about how maybe not necessarily the best team won. Well, your team had 60-plus minutes to prove that you were the better team and score a goal. And late in that game, Team USA, they got the power play, and they had some grade A chances as well. But it was a lot of defending from Team USA and a lot of spectacular goaltending from Connor Hellebuck. And it's kind of funny. So Austin Matthews and Connor Hellebuck and Brady Tkachuk and those guys, they win the gold medal for USA, and now they got to come back to Winnipeg for Hellebuck and Toronto for Austin Matthews. It was funny. I saw the Maple Leafs were like, our captain, with the heart, because he got the gold medal. And I'm not sure a lot of Canadians are happy with Austin Matthews and Team USA right now. Kind of a tough spot to be in if you're one of these Canadian teams that have American players who played for Team USA. But yeah, it was just an unbelievable game. NBC did a great job for the men's and women's, really the whole Olympics. They did a great job of providing the coverage. Mike Tirico's tremendous. Eddie Olczyk is as good as it gets. Brian Boucher on the side. They were just great, and it was really entertaining. It was a 1-1 game for the longest time, but that was not because there were no chances. There were a ton of chances, and both goaltenders, but especially Hellebuck, were on their game. And it was just the U.S., they got a 3-on-1 breakaway. Zach Werenski makes a nice play, gets it back. I can't remember who that was that he got it to, but then they feed it to Jack Hughes, and he slips it under the pads for a goal and a win for Team USA. It really shocked me. I don't know if I was shocked, but I was surprised that Team USA won. I know the lines, like before the game, I remember seeing them, I was like, wow, is that disrespectful to Canada? They were only like slight favorites. I was like, I feel like there is a considerable gap. Now maybe they really did take into account the captain, Sidney Crosby, being out and the impact that might have. And I think it did have an impact, certainly for Canada. But if you're Canada, that's a tough loss, because now it's for a long time the U.S. Team USA and America is going to be Americans all over the place that are hockey fans are going to be, and really they who aren't hockey fans but just have that pride for their country or whatever, that they were just watching the game to see Team USA win. They're going to be rubbing it in your nose for a long time until Canada can potentially exact revenge at the next Olympics. But if Canadian fans and everything were saying, well, the Four Nations was bigger, it was a bigger moment, and I mean, you're lying to yourself. Nobody believes that. The Four Nations was great. It was a great win by Canada. It was a great environment. But that was just something like the NHL made, and it was a fun event and everything. And there was a lot of stakes, but this is the Olympics. I mean, this is historic. This is the event, right? And to lose to the U.S. on that stage, to lose in the gold medal match in game is going to sting for a long time for Canadians, because I mean that's their sport. That's Canada loves their hockey, and the U.S. over the last decade or so has really improved in its development with hockey and growth of the sport in America. But make no mistake about it, Canada hockey is almost everything, and so this is quite a moment for Team USA. First gold medal in men's hockey since that incredible 1980 Olympic run, miracle on ice. And just tremendous job by Team USA, by everyone involved, by our old Penguins pal, Mike Sullivan, who has not experienced much success in 2025 or 2026 in the NHL, but got some success here in the Olympics, which will make things a little bit better, hopefully, for him, although the New York Rangers are going nowhere fast this season. So just wanted to touch on that, and congrats to the women as well. That was a great game as well. Back and forth. But really, I mean, it was back and forth in chances, but Canada, I mean, they were up the whole game, and the U.S. gets the very late equalizer. Hillary Knight, captain, who's been around forever, clutch as always, and then I can't remember who it was, that defenseman. What a move she made to get past the Canada defender, and what a backhand. I mean, it was just tremendous. Great moments for both the women and men in Team USA. What a time. What an Olympics. 12 gold medals for the U.S. That was their most all-time in the Winter Olympics. Norway, 18 gold medals, I saw. I mean, that's insane. I mean, I thought the U.S. did great, and then it's like, well, Norway just kind of dominated everybody. So congrats to Norway as well and all their efforts. But I want to pivot to a little bit of baseball, a little bit of Pirates baseball. spring is in the air a little bit. We're watching games in Florida, and we're hoping and praying for some warm weather. We got a little bit of warm weather past couple of days, and then it got cold again. There was snow. Thought we were done with the snow, but the Pirates are 3-0. They're undefeated in spring training. For what that's worth, I wouldn't put much in that whatsoever at all. But hey, if you want a 3-0 is 3-0, even if the games don't count really. But it's more about seeing some of these players, namely like a Connor Griffin, the big name, but also as Marilyn Valdez, who is really rising up the ranks as well in the Pirates minor league system. He lit the world on fire last season like Connor Griffin did, particularly late in the season. Continued that into winter ball, and he had a grand slam against the Phillies on the road in spring training yesterday. And it's a really nice swing. He has a ton of confidence. Every time you see him, he's making highlight hits and big homers and everything. It's very exciting. And then there was this one pitcher, I can't remember his name now. I gotta be honest, I've never heard of him before. This morning when I saw what he did, he went one inning and struck out the side against the Phillies. And no big deal, it was against Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber. Right, some of the best hitters in baseball. So that was really, really cool to see. But for the Pirates, the Pirates more than any team almost, you can't take their spring training seriously because they play in Bradenton where it's just so windy. Even relative to the other Florida spring training parks, it's just so windy. The ball flies out of there. Now, sometimes the wind blows the other way, like yesterday, and there were a couple hits that I thought were going to be out of there that died at the warning track because of that wind. But it's really, Kevin Newman hit almost, 600 in spring training way back, and it was a disastrous season for him. And we've seen other players, Jack Sawinski, perform well in spring training and that not translate. So there's many cases, particularly with the Pirates, of reading very little into spring training numbers. But, it's encouraging, right? It's encouraging at the very least. Brian Reynolds went 3 for 3 yesterday, was hitting the ball well. He was interviewed after and said, I missed a couple fastballs. And, so he admits he's still trying to get better, still trying to get into that rhythm. And obviously he's going to be a huge part of the Pirates' efforts this season to try to make it back to Bucktober for the first time in 11 years. And I think he will play a part. I think he is going to have a bounce back. There's no reason to think he wouldn't with his track record, with his consistency. And he's been working hard in the outfield defensively this offseason. And things are looking up for Reynolds. And I'm very excited to see him return to that form that he had really every season except last season and the COVID season of 2020, which the numbers were all over the place for everybody. So that was encouraging to see from Reynolds. Brandon Lau was out there making some plays, getting some, I think he drew a walk. Henry Davis, he got on base, hit by a pitch, very good job. Henry Davis, he's going to be somebody, I don't think I've touched on him too much on this show, but he's going to be somebody the Pirates need a little bit more out of. You can't hit 150 and be a catcher for. I know you're great defensively now, but just if you could get that average up, man. And he said he's been working on his swing and his approach this offseason. He does look a little better, but again, it's spring training. It's hard to, and it's very early in spring training. Obviously, it's really hard to gauge that at this juncture. But hopefully, things are looking up for Henry Davis. He works so hard. He works his butt off every day, and you just want to see him have success because, again, he knows he was the first overall pick in an MLB draft, right? There's so much pressure that comes with that, but there's still time for him. I would love to see, really more than anybody, have Henry Davis have a great season offensively paired with his spectacular defense that was a question for him coming out of Louisville and coming out of college. He's been lights out defensively, particularly in 2025, and it just shows how hard he works. And it's just you want to see that translate offensively too, all that work he's putting in in the off season, in the batting cages, and just see that translate. That would be huge for Henry Davis. It'd be huge for the Pirates. If Henry Davis has a good offensive season, you start looking at this team and you really think they're a contender, right? Now there's a lot of things that have to go right, but there's less things that have to go right than there were in 2025, where it just felt like everything had to go right. Your additions offensively were Tommy Pham and Adam Frazier. O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds carry us, right? Spencer Horwitz out for first couple months. Nick Gonzalez in the first game breaks his leg. It was just a lot of pressure on guys that weren't ready for it, or in the Reynolds and Cruz's case, I just think they were seeing not the greatest pitches. And both of them, too, though, were in funks. And for large stretches, were not up to their best capable abilities. But it's different this year. You bring in a Ryan O'Hearn, you bring in a Marcell Ozuna, you trade for a Brandon Lau. I thought the pass were Justinson Garcia. I thought he played well yesterday against Tampa. He was hitting the ball hard. I like his swing. I think Jake Mangum's going to be just a solid Pittsburgh Pirate. I really do. His approach, his approach to life, his approach to baseball, what he did last season, I think he's going to be, and I think he's a great clubhouse guy as well. I think Jake Mangum's going to be a big factor this season. And, and even somebody like an Emmanuel Valdez, I mean, before he got hurt last season, he was really one of the guys, the bright spots for the Pirates offensively. There weren't many, but he held his own, and they were having him playing first base. Not really his position, but with Spencer Horwitz out, the first base every season is just such an issue for the Pirates. They're always shuffling around. He stepped in, and I think he did admirably. I think a lot of people agree with that. And he's not going to be looked at as a first baseman, but more of a third baseman, certainly going into 2026 with a Jared Triolo, with a Nick York. But I think Emmanuel Valdez, I want to see him have a real chance too, because he showed well last season in the time he was healthy. So there's a lot of guys like Garcia, like I mentioned. There's a lot of promise there. He was a top prospect, right? Top 100 prospect. There's a lot of promise there. And obviously O'Neal Cruz, I haven't seen him play yet in spring training. I haven't. He might have played the first game. But it'll be interesting to see just where he's at offensively, where he's at defensively. Did Kevin Kiermaier just really get into his head and get him in the right mindset as it pertains to fielding and just staying focused consistently throughout the whole game? I mean, there are a lot of ifs. And also, you talk about the rotation. You know what Skeens is going to provide. Mitch Keller, there's a lot of questions with Mitch Keller in the second half of seasons, post-All-Star break. The Pirates need him to be at his best. I mentioned this last week. In the first half, which he almost always is, but also in the second half of the season, to not get tired, whatever he's been doing to try to change that approach so that you're at your best when the team needs you the most. And so there's just so much excitement. Bubba Chandler, Braxton Ashcraft, Hunter Barco, even a Thomas Harrington. He did not pitch well for the Pirates last season in 2025 when he was up. He had that disastrous game in Colorado paired with Andrew Heaney. That was one of the more embarrassing losses you'll see, blowing an 8-0 lead or whatever, an 8-run lead in a game. But he has a lot of promise, and it was just a couple rough outings. He didn't pitch much with the Pirates. It was just a couple rough outings. If he could turn the corner a little bit. And we'll see Bill Murphy coming in as the pitching coach now. There's some arms, certainly. And there's a lot of excitement around Pirates baseball right now. There's some Bucco fever. I got a little bit of Bucco fever. I'm still cautiously optimistic. But we're going to take a break. On the other side, I'm going to give an interesting stat from last season and why I am cautiously optimistic that this team could make strides. Sports Scuba Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM. And welcome back to the Sports Scuba Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. I was talking about the Pirates for a little bit here. I want to bring up that stat I mentioned from 2025. It pertains to Don Kelly. I haven't talked about Don Kelly, Point Park alum, Point Park baseball alum. He's such a great guy, and he's so energetic. His energy and his passion for the game and for everybody is so infectious. And he took over as manager last season when the Pirates were 10-24. Right, they ended up 71-91. They went 61-67 the rest of the way with Don Kelly. Right, and if you make that a full season sample, that's about 77-85, 78-84 for the whole season, right? That's not great still, but it's a lot better than the 71-91 that the Pirates finished as. And it's a lot larger of a sample size than the 34 games the Pirates played with Derek Shelton as the manager. I think if you look at it from that standpoint, I think you got so much better offensively. I said last week that I think this is kind of an 82-83 win team. But the way they improved this offense, and the way, they were still one of the worst offenses in baseball under Don Kelly. It was a bad offensive team. But they only won 6 games under 500. They were very feisty. They played small ball. Now maybe you could argue this year defensively they might not be doing that, but I think they will be a little bit better defensively than people think. I don't think it's the end of the world from a defensive standpoint. But, going from 78 to 82 wins would honestly, on pace for 78 last season with Don Kelly, to 82 wins in a full season. You'd almost expect more with the additions made to this offense, with a full season of Bubba Chandler, with a full season, hopefully, of Braxton Ashcraft, and with Jared Jones coming back at some point, maybe in June. You could really dream about the Pirates. I'm not going to change my prediction right now. I probably won't change my prediction because I don't want spring training to alter anything. It shouldn't. It's just for guys to get some work before the season, get comfortable and everything, pitchers and hitters. So I'm not going to be changing my expectations for this team if everybody's just lighting the world on fire in spring training. But I do think people should look at it more through the lens of last season's team was like a 77 or 78 win kind of team instead of 71, because those first 34 games there was no energy. Spencer Horwitz was out. And he was tremendous for the Pirates last season. He was everything the Pirates could have hoped for and more when he got healthy. Nick Gonzalez breaks his ankle on the first game of the season in Miami. There was just no energy. Derek Shelton was like, I'm so tired of this, and everything. And it was just a lifeless team the first 34 games. You insert Don Kelly as the head guy, as the manager, and there was just a lot more energy. And it was still a bad hitting team, but it was a really good pitching team. And I could definitely see 86, 87, upper 80s wins based on the additions this offseason, based on the addition of Bubba Chandler or Braxton Ashcraft, or even you talk about a Spencer Horwitz having a full season, right? Some of these guys. And an O'Neal Cruz bounce back, hopefully a Brian Reynolds bounce back. You could see 87, 88 wins. Now, a lot of things would have to go their way, but if they won 71 games and people are saying, like myself, they could win 82 games or something like that, then if you said, well, under Don Kelly they had a 78 win pace, who's to say they can't win 87, 88 games and have that kind of 10 win improvement? There was a lot of close games the Pirates lost because they just couldn't hit. I remember 2 series in Chicago. There were many examples. But at Wrigley Field, where they had a 4-game series, I think they lost 3 of 4. And the Cubs didn't score any runs, but the Pirates scored fewer. It was so frustrating. But it's like it was right there. And if you have a Marcell Ozuna up in one of those big spots, or a Ryan O'Hearn or a Brandon Lau, or a Brian Reynolds in one of his typical Brian Reynolds seasons, or O'Neal Cruz on a hot streak, then it's a different result, I think, certainly. And I think there's a lot of promise for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2026. Do I wish they could have added to third base? Absolutely. Do I wish maybe the defensive alignment was a little better? Certainly. But you get what you can get if you're the Pirates in the 2025 going into 2026 offseason. Knowing the reputation of the franchise, I think Ben Cherington did about as good as you could do. I'm not giving him ultimate credit. I've been, I think, very fair on what he's done, the less than stellar job he's done as Pirates general manager. But this is a highly pressurized season for him, hopefully. I mean, it should be, because you make these additions now, they got to come to fruition. And it's year 6. It's year 7. It's year 7 now. 2020 was the first, I was counting in my head. Year 7 now. I was saying year 6 for so long, it's actually year 7. It's kind of crazy. And they have nothing to show for it the first 6 seasons under Cherington and Travis Williams and Derek Shelton before he got fired. So we'll see where the Pittsburgh Pirates are at. There's a lot of hope and optimism. The season starts in a little over a month. They're going to be in Citi Field in New York, taking on the Mets on national television, and you'd assume it'd be Paul Skeens going for the Pirates. Again, that series, I think they play the Reds after that. Those kind of series, I think just that they have to start off strong. They have to start really strong, because these past several seasons, they just haven't started off strong. They kind of did in Miami, but it fizzled out in 2024. What was that? But in 2025, they were terrible in Miami. They were terrible in Tampa. The Yankees came in and had a field day, and it was over before it could get started for the Pirates. But I think it's different this year, because I think this offense isn't dreadful like it was last season. I think it is much improved. Even if it is middle of the pack, I would absolutely take a middle of the pack offense in 2026 for the Pirates. I think a lot of Pirates fans would. I think there is some promise. I think the Garcia addition, the Mangum addition for lineup depth, for defensive depth was important. I think people are sleeping on Spencer Horwitz. I keep talking, people are having him like 7th in the order. If Spencer Horwitz is 7th in the order, I mean, this might be a great offense, because Horwitz was the Pirates' best hitter last season. Personally, I'd like to see him higher up in the lineup. But now it's like a good problem that you have, because you like to have somebody like Connor Griffin opening day leading off. You'd probably allow it 2 or Reynolds at 3 or something. O'Hearn at 4, Marcell Ozuna at 5. And then it's like, where's Horwitz go? Maybe Cruz 6, Horwitz 7. That's kind of crazy to me that the Horwitz could be a 7-hole hitter for this team. But, I mean, it does show the improvements this team has made offensively. But I don't want people to forget what Spencer Horwitz was able to do last season, playing first base every day, especially the last month and a half. He was lights out. He was hitting the ball over the field. He was hitting with some power. And he was a great contributor to the Pirates when he was healthy in 2025. So part of me wants him to be higher in the lineup, because he contributed so much for the Pirates in 2025. But also, it's actually good because it shows that the Pirates did make those additions offensively. They're not huge name players, but they are worthy top of the order hitters that can contribute to a winning ball club. So that's where we're at with the Pirates. I'll obviously talk about them a lot more as we go here. I'm going to transition to the NBA, because it's post-trade deadline. It's post-All-Star break. This is kind of the stretch run of the season where you get your seeding and everything. You figure out where some teams are at. Obviously, there's some teams that are bona fide contenders. OKC is tremendous. OKC didn't have, it was an embarrassing performance by the Cavs yesterday. Oklahoma City didn't have SGA. They didn't have Jalen Williams. And they dominated the Cavs for large stretch. The first quarter, they completely dominated the Cavs. And the Cavs have been playing really good basketball with James Harden and Donovan Mitchell together. But they were just kind of shell-shocked, and they came back and everything, but the Thunder pulled away and got a win. The Thunder are just really good. And this is, again, what I was talking about with Denver earlier when Jokic was out. You get more players, some minutes, some confidence in games. That'll help you in April, May, and hopefully June to go to your bench more and use your depth. Because that was something the Nuggets, the Thunder have had that depth, but the Nuggets had no depth last season. That's what bit them in the butt in Game 7 against Oklahoma City. They ran out of gas. And but this year, Peyton Watson takes a huge step. You get Jalen Pickett some minutes. Spencer Jones gets some minutes feeling comfortable. And the question for Denver is going to be, can Aaron Gordon be healthy in the playoffs? That's all that matters for the Nuggets. Can Aaron Gordon be healthy in the playoffs? If he's not healthy, the Nuggets don't have a chance. He's the glue of the team. I know Jokic, everybody talks about that, but Aaron Gordon brings so much on the defensive side for the Nuggets. They're just not, if you watch that game against the Warriors yesterday, that was talking about embarrassing too. They lost to the Warriors without Steph Curry, without Draymond Green, without Kristaps Porzingis. And the Warriors were just back-cutting them to death. Over and over, they're just back-cutting, and the Warriors were getting easy finishes and easy layups. And then they'd be wide open for three because you're over-helping on the back cuts. And so the Nuggets are not good defensively without Aaron Gordon. They need him because without him, they're a bottom 10 defense, and you're not winning a championship with a bottom 10 defense. Usually you got to be kind of near the top 10 in both. The Nuggets are the best offense in basketball, but they're like 24th or 23rd in defense. And so for the Nuggets, it starts and ends with Aaron Gordon being healthy. But now you have that depth. You have a Hardaway Jr., Christian Brown, obviously, Peyton Watson really stepping up. Hopefully he comes back pretty soon. But you have more depth now to try to compete with OKC. But OKC, they showed yesterday with a lot of bench players stepping up and everything that they're more than fine, and all their players are confident. And Mark Dagnall and OKC, they can go way deep into their bench, and we know that. We saw that last season in the playoffs. But they're so deep, and you bring in a Jared McCain, which was a great addition as well. Sam Presti's tremendous, and the Thunder have something that can be sustained for years. It's just tremendous what they've been able to do. But I mentioned OKC, I mentioned Denver. I think San Antonio has been great this season. Wembanyama's tremendous. He just does stuff that you've never seen before. With a guy of his size, he's very slim, but he's powerful, and he's tall. And he's got crazy long arms and reach. He's just, you could take off from the three-point line for a dunk, it feels like. And he has underrated quickness, too. He can just blow by you. And next thing you know, he's not even jumping, and he's slamming it home. So San Antonio, you talk about De'Aaron Fox, you talk about Stephon Castle, you talk about Dylan Harper that they brought in. Harrison Barnes is a wily veteran. We love Harrison Barnes. He's been doing his thing for, 15, 16 seasons in the NBA. He's been tremendous as a leader for that team. They have a lot of what you want in a championship contender. Now, they haven't been there yet, and that's the concern for San Antonio and for San Antonio fans. This group hasn't been there. They haven't even been in the playoffs. So that'll be a question for San Antonio. I would give an edge to a Denver and OKC over San Antonio in a playoff series, but they're very talented. They're just a very talented team. And they have a guy in De'Aaron Fox. He doesn't have much playoff experience with Sacramento, obviously, but he's a veteran. He's been around. Nothing's going to really faze him. So I really like San Antonio and what they've been able to do. And they have had success against OKC this season, which, whatever that's worth, who knows? We just don't know in a playoff environment how much that would be worth. And we know Wemby and Chet Holmgren don't like each other, and Wemby's a better player, and he gets fired up when he plays Chet Holmgren. So they're kind of similar players, but Wemby's bigger, and he's just a better overall player. But Chet Holmgren's very good. He had a really good game against Cleveland yesterday. So you got those three teams. I just think Houston, if they had Fred VanVleet, I would absolutely put them in there. But they just don't have enough at the point guard position. They've been very competitive this season. They should have beat the Knicks. They outplayed the Knicks for most of that game, but they gave up the lead. 18 points in the fourth quarter. Really not good for the Rockets. And they're gonna want some high seeding, so you can't afford some of these losses. But I think Houston's, if they can get fully healthy next season, Fred VanVleet and everything, I think they certainly would be in that contender tier. I just think this season, it's asking a lot. It's asking a lot for that team. It's asking a lot out of Kevin Durant. It's asking a lot out of Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith and Şengün. So Şengün's been weird this season. He's been, some days I look and he has like 3 points, right? And then he'll go off in a game. You're like if he could just be consistent, that would just be a huge boost for the Rockets. But too many times he's a no-show, honestly, and then you got Kevin Durant trying to carry the load for the team, and it's just tough. I want to talk about Minnesota because I do think they're a sneaky team. Now they're very inconsistent as well, but they've given OKC some troubles this season. Talk about Anthony Edwards. Julius Randle's playing well. You got Naz Reid. You got Jaden McDaniels. Rudy Gobert. And I like what they did, bringing in Ayo Dosunmu. They still have Mike Conley. They traded Mike Conley, and then they just brought him back for some depth. They needed some guard depth because Rob Dillingham and that Clark kid, they were not doing it for Minnesota. Minnesota's in a win-now mode. They can't afford to just throw a guy out there and just let him have his growing pains on the court. They need to win games. And they really haven't been, but they're like a game out of third place. All the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth place teams are all within like a game of each other, which is concerning for a Denver, but more concerning for Minnesota or something who'd like a higher seed. I think Denver could win on the road. I don't think Lakers. I'm going to talk about the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers could. I really don't, and I don't really think Houston could either. So I think Minnesota's kind of teetering on that contender for the title tier. I think they can beat Denver. I think they can beat San Antonio, certainly. They beat Denver a couple of years ago, right? And they gave OKC some fits a few weeks ago or a month ago in Minnesota when I think they were at full strength. So the Lakers, pretenders, I mean, nobody thinks the Warriors are contenders or anything. I'm just going to get them out of the way. They're not going to be doing anything this season. Talk about needing a higher seed. The Warriors are one of those teams that needed it. And Jimmy Butler, that injury is just terrible. Really just terrible for the Warriors. Yeah, they're just not going anywhere. Even though they did have an impressive win against the Nuggets, they're not going anywhere this season. Once again. Phoenix, it's been a great season, but I just don't think they have enough. It's been a great coaching job. I can't remember this coach's name, but they've dealt with a lot of injuries, and they're right there in the 7th spot. But I don't think they are a contender this season. Talk about the Lakers. I don't think the Lakers are a contender. I don't. They're the most average team I've seen this. Literally, their point differential is like plus 0.3, and it was negative for a while. When LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves are on the court, they are a bad basketball team. And now, luckily for the Lakers, they haven't been on the court together for a while. But they're just not a great team. They're not good defensively. They don't have too many good defenders. And offensively, it just doesn't work sometimes for them. I just think it's asking a lot out of their offense when you got a guy like Luka Doncic and obviously LeBron, who's been a solid defender in his career, but you can't expect at 40, 41 to be defending at a high level. It's just really tough. And I just think the role players are I like Marcus Smart. I like Rui Hachimura a little bit. DeAndre Ayton's too inconsistent. And some of the guys, Dalton Connect hasn't developed like they wanted. I just don't think the Lakers have enough. I think they're a first-round exit team, especially if they're like a 6 seed and they play the Nuggets. I mean, they never do anything against the Nuggets. I don't think they beat the Spurs either. So, they're a pretender to me. And, that's the Western Conference, because everybody else is pretty bad and tanking or whatever and getting fined. So, coming up on the other side of this break, I'm going to talk about the Eastern Conference, which is a little bit more compelling in some aspects, but doesn't have the sheer firepower of the teams in the Western Conference. But we'll get into the Eastern Conference contenders and pretenders. Sports Scoop and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM. And welcome back to the Sports Scoop and Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM, Point Park's radio station. Talking about NBA contenders and pretenders. Want to quickly go through the Eastern Conference. We'll start with the pretenders here in the East because there's plenty of pretenders. The whole play-in group. I love Charlotte. I'm not even going to put Charlotte in there. I'm not going to disrespect the Hornets at all this season. I love the Hornets. I love what they're doing this season. The comeback, they were way below 500, and they've done a great run. So I'm not going to be disrespecting Charlotte whatsoever. I am going to disrespect Atlanta because I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what I talked about this, I think, when it happened on the show. Bring in Jonathan Kuminga makes no sense. You're a big star, Jalen Johnson, you want to build around, plays the same position and is just a much better overall player and a much more willing player, like team player. I think a team could have taken a flyer on Jonathan Kuminga, but not the Atlanta Hawks. Zachary Richase, the number one pick from last season, has not been anything noteworthy whatsoever. Hasn't developed. Far cry from a Cooper Flagg or a Con Knipple of this season. He's been just not very good for Atlanta, and they needed some offense. Atlanta's not a serious contender. They're pretty bad defensively, even without Trae Young, which he hasn't played for them most of the season. Now he's on Washington. They're just not very good. Orlando, I still believe a little bit. I still feel like Desmond Bane, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Anthony Black's taking a step forward, Wendell Carter. I still believe in them. I think this is a team. I mean, they took Boston to the brink, not to the brink, but to 6 games last season, and they were very feisty, particularly at home. And it feels like they've regressed this season. Now, Wagner's missed a lot of time. Bane's missed a little bit, I think. Banchero, but I mean, it's just a team that you thought they'd get so much better offensively, and they really haven't. And their defense has gotten worse. And so that's a big issue for Orlando. I see them as kind of just a better Atlanta Hawks kind of team, really, with more star power. But it's just kind of the same thing, it feels like. It just feels like they're not. And same with Miami. We like Tyler Hero. We like Bam Adebayo. Norman Powell's been great. But it's just like, I just don't think they have enough. Now, I would, Miami or Philly at this point, I would take a Miami. Miami or Toronto, I probably would take Miami. I think Toronto's a year away from doing anything, certainly. I don't trust their offense crazy much. I don't really like their depth behind Ingram and Scotty Barnes and Barrett and Quickly. It's a lot of Mamu Kalashvili in a big spot. I love Mamu Kalashvili, but I don't know about that. So Toronto, it's been a great season and everything. It's been a great step in the right direction, but I don't think they're anything in the East, even though the East is going to be more winnable or attainable of a conference in the West. I think the contenders, and Boston, it's tough because they've been good offensively, they've been good defensively this season. They've just been a really good team. Joe Mazzulla, he's all business, no nonsense. And I just don't, without Jason Tatum, I just don't know how they're beating the Knicks, Detroit, or the Cavs. I really don't. I would put them in pretender unless Jason Tatum somehow comes back and they have a great rhythm and they're full throttle. Then they're very much a contender, but I just don't see that this season. And that's okay. That is perfectly okay. A lot of people thought Boston might be like a 7th or 8th place team or a play-in team this season, and they're 2 seed in the East. So that's props to everybody with the Celtics. They just win as a franchise. But I don't know. I don't know with Boston. I would take Detroit, Cleveland, and New York over them. I think those 3 are the teams everyone's looking at in the East. Detroit had their growing pains last season. They almost beat the Knicks in a playoff series. They've beaten the Knicks badly during the regular season. Cade Cunningham's been tremendous. We talk about kind of the depth they have. Bringing in a guy like a Duncan Robinson to shoot threes, right? Bringing in a Javonte Green who has kind of been passed over but has really found a home in Detroit. You talk about Stewart. Just willing to do anything down low. And Jalen Duren's been tremendous, an all-star this season. They just have a lot of good players. And you talk about the all-star Thompson, the other Thompson brother. They just have a lot of good players, and they have depth, and they play good defense. The question will be, where's the offense going to come from in big spots in the playoffs? If Cade Cunningham's having a rough game, where does Detroit go to? They've been great this season. I would be surprised if they weren't the 1 seed. They have like a 6-game lead in the Eastern Conference. But that'll be a question with Detroit. People are like, wow, Detroit's been great this season, but we need to see it in the playoffs. That's kind of the mindset that people have and kind of the feeling that people have regarding the Pistons right now. But it's been a great season for Detroit. J.B. Bickerstaff, probably the front runner for Coach of the Year in the NBA. The Knicks and the Cavs, it's tough to say which one's better at this point. I think I would give the slight edge to the Knicks because they have that continuity, whereas Cleveland doesn't yet with James Harden. Cleveland just had a bad loss to OKC, but before that they won 12 of 14 or 14 of 16 or something, and they really got themselves way above 500. They were hovering around 500 the longest time, and now they're way above 500. That's my question. I've been saying it. James Harden in the playoffs. Again, he's not going to be the go-to guy, but in a big spot, can James Harden be relied on if Donovan Mitchell's having a rough game, or if Donovan Mitchell's out with 4 fouls or 5 fouls? Can James Harden keep the Cavs going in a playoffs matchup? Cavs-Knicks, I think, would be a great playoff matchup. But I think the Cavs have more defensive upside, particularly down low with Mobley and with Allen. And I think when Max Strus comes back, you have that defensive versatility on the wings. I like the addition of Schroeder and Keon Ellis a lot. I think there's more depth with the Cavs now. And I think they're certainly a contender to go to the finals in the East. But right now, I would have the Knicks. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to put Detroit as the favorites right now. It's very slight favorites because they've beaten the Knicks this season. And if they were playing like this in the playoffs last year, they would have beat the Knicks in the playoffs. And they have more confidence now. So I think I would put Detroit 1, the Knicks slightly over the Cavs. Right now, I need to see more from the Cavs. I need to see more from New York, honestly. They've kind of been inconsistent at times this season. But you know what Jalen Brunson in the big moments is going to be. You hope you get Karl-Anthony Towns at his best, staying out of foul trouble. Right? You talk about Josh Hart. You talk about OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Deuce McBride. And now you're bringing a Jose Alvarado to help be a backup point guard to spell Brunson at times. So I think the Knicks are really good. I think the Cavs are really good. I think Detroit has been obviously really good. I think those 3 teams are the contenders in the East. And I would put it in Detroit, New York, and Cleveland in that order at this point. But it's razor-thin margins right now. And we'll learn a lot about these teams. I think the Knicks and Cavs play this week. I know the Cavs played Detroit a couple times down the stretch. So we will find out more about these teams as we go here, as the season unfolds, I just want to talk about Michigan and Duke here to close out the show. I only got a few minutes left. I got to get to class, actually. But that was a great game. It started out like it was going to be a track meet. Michigan and Duke, they're just haymaker after haymaker, back and forth, back and forth. And then in the second part of the first half, the scoring really slowed down, and it became a defensive battle. Yaxel Lindenberg for Michigan was tremendous. He was great in the first half. Boozer, how about Cam Boozer? He just, he goes. If he sees an opening, he's just barreling into the lane. And he's so skilled that he finishes a majority of the time, even the tough plays. He's tremendous. And I'm a Pacers. I like the Pacers. I hope the Pacers could somehow get a Boozer or A.J. DeBanza from BYU over Darren Peterson, who it's been well documented, seems to have no interest in playing basketball half the time, even though he's so talented and is just a bucket getter. But yeah, that was just a great game. And then Duke, I mean, I was surprised at Duke. I thought Michigan was going to win. I still think that they're the best team in college basketball, but what a win by Duke. Just staying with it the whole time. Evans making some big shots. Sarr making some plays. I just thought they out-hustled Michigan in the biggest moments and just wanted a little more, and they were able to pull away in the end. But tremendous win by Duke. What a game. It was an odd game. Usually you don't see those non-conference games in the middle of February to late February. But glad both John Shire and Dusty May scheduled that game, or whoever was doing it for Duke in Michigan, because that was a fun game. It was a hyped game in D.C., ton of energy, ton of passion, and the game really delivered. So really liked that game. And Arizona with a big win over Houston. Houston's in a gauntlet right now. They just played at Iowa State. They lost. They lost at home to Arizona. And then now they're going to go to Kansas, who's not going to be happy with Bill Self off of a loss. So it'll be tough for Houston. I love Houston and Kelvin Sampson, but it's going to be a tough stretch here that they're going to have to get through and be better for on the other side. But that'll do it for this edition of the Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins on WPPJ 670 AM radio. Thank you for listening in. As always, I'm going to put this on my YouTube later, and everyone will be able to listen to it if you weren't able to. I'll promote that a little bit later today. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day, rest of the day. Sports Scoop with Nathan Schivins, WPPJ 670 AM.